Only a few years ago, mentally retarded children like these were often hidden and ignored. Today they're in school. A special individualized learning program may enable them to do things long thought beyond the ability of the mentally retarded. They'll talk, count, learn how to care for themselves. They might even move into a regular classroom. Early intervention is the key. A specialized education program that could start when a child is barely 6 weeks old and, by law, lasts until they are 21. But what happens after school, after years of hard work and achievement? At age 21, many retarded people have learned how to work and are able to live outside the family home. But often these people disappear in homes like this, in neighborhoods like yours, and live their lives with their parents. They're ready to start life on their own, but sometimes the community and the family isn't ready to let them.
I think you can find that once their school program is over, they just fade into the community with no place.
Our goal has always been to help them to be just as independent as they can possibly be and reach their highest potential.
Unfortunately, when they reach 21, the parents are that much older, and as they grow older, the parents grow older, and it's maybe harder for the parents to take care of them at home too.
They're just slower about learning, slower about doing things, and they need a little extra help.
If you'll give us a little bit of money to do the training and the education, then we can make individuals tax-paying, put money back into there.
When we leave them, they're better than what they were when we seen them. And that's what we're here to do, and that's what we're here to show the community that we can do it.
When Jennifer was born, naturally we were very upset and had to go through the normal grieving process, but I quickly realized that my goal as a parent was no different with her than it would be with any child.
Jennifer Hood is 19 years old. She has a job and lives with her family in Auburn, Alabama. She was born with Down syndrome, a condition that almost always causes some physical problems and mental retardation.
That goal is to help them to reach their potential. And that sort of kept me going and working with her, not to try to find that balance of helping her to do all she can do, but not expect too much.
The idea of mainstreaming, putting mentally retarded students in regular classrooms whenever possible, was not put into practice until Jennifer was well into her education. Still, through her interactions with her family and through the efforts of dedicated teachers, she's able to do many things. She and her sister help out around the house, caring for 2 adopted sisters who also have Down syndrome, and she holds a job.
She has had experience working in restaurants, motels, Humane Society, and now she is employed by a department store, cleaning and that kind of thing. So any of those kinds of tasks, I think she would be able to be employed in those areas.
There are problems. It's hard to understand Jennifer because Down syndrome makes it difficult for her to control the muscles used in speech. Hearing problems are common too, and you can't speak well when you can't hear well.
What's the telephone?
Jennifer does not read, and everything we know of and teachers know of has been tried to help her with that.
Jennifer and her family now face the dilemma every family with an adult retarded child faces. She's eager to start life on her own, and she longs for the independence others her age enjoy. But these things aren't easy for her and her family to find. Once Jennifer completes school, the Hoods will be on their own.
Very much so. The law is so good up to that point to protect their rights and the family's rights, but then there's really not much there after that point.
Jennifer's found work at JCPenney's using skills she learned in school and at home. It's a demanding job, most of which she does without direct supervision. There's also the inevitable paperwork. But getting to and from work or anywhere else is a problem. Jennifer doesn't drive. It's up to the family to get her to work and anywhere else she wants to go. Auburn, a relatively small town, doesn't have an extensive public transportation system.
Somebody has to call them and set it up for them to make a trip to their home to pick the person up and make sure that they're there on time and that kind of thing. So we are responsible for Jennifer's transportation, where our 16-year-old gets in the car and goes to work.
Finding a place for Jennifer to live is also difficult. With a little supervision, she'd be able to live outside the home, and like others her age, she's excited by the prospect. But there's a shortage of group homes or residence programs in the area.
Yeah, there is. It's a long waiting list, too. It's rather hard and difficult to get in any of the existing group homes, and it's real expensive to keep them there.
The Hoods have worked with others in their community to start a group home for people like Jennifer, but after years of work, they're not much closer to their goal.
We were trying to make it an independent group home, not affiliated with the government programs or anything like that. And it was going to take, and still is going to take, a lot of coordination, need somebody full-time working on it, and parents just have not been able to put the time into it or the effort that's been needed to really work on that program.
So, the only alternative for Jennifer is to live at home, and she's welcome there. But her parents want her to be welcome in the community. They want their daughter to have a place in our world.
And I think that's another important thing about us getting out in society, that as we are seen and our kids are viewed in normal situations, out in restaurants and wherever, that people are becoming more accepting, more aware that these kids can produce and can become a taxpayer rather than a tax burden.
Although she works, Jennifer's world is centered around her parents' home, and they want her to be ready for the world when they can no longer care for her. And they want the world to be ready for her.
We're going to have to continue to fight and talk to legislators and public officials and continue to get the programs and strive to educate the general public, really, as to the needs and what these kids are capable of doing.
Steve Carlson's journey to independence has led him to a group home in Montgomery, Alabama. It's a journey that was as challenging to his parents as it was to him. Steve lived at home with them, but spent days at the Association for Retarded Children's sheltered workshop. The people there encouraged the Carlsons to let their son live his own life.
Your love and devotion that child needs. But he also needs to be around people his own age. He needs to be experiencing life.
We were reluctant in part because we thought if one thing we could do was provide a good home for him, although he would be sheltered by his parents. But they convinced us that having him on his own would be good for him.
Used to, 20 years ago, the likelihood of a child with mental retardation dying before their parents did was very likely. In today's age of medical technology and all that, the norm is that parents will die before their handicapped children do.
Here's your TV guide, Jim.
At the group home, Steve lives with 5 other mentally retarded men. A counselor is always on duty to help them, but in a sense, it's their home and they make it work.
But there he would get responsible for laundry and for helping with meals and much more into the heart of running a household. That was a part of what surprised us.
The group home meets other practical needs. A bus shuttles Steve and his neighbors to and from work every day. At night, they board buses or vans for recreation activities. This new life has not only been liberating for Steve, it's been liberating for his parents.
We have found that having Steve in the group home has added a new dimension of freedom to our lives. We can be more productive. I couldn't do anywhere near the things that I do in the community as a volunteer, whether for the Association for Retarded Citizens or United Way or the Lions Club or whatever that I'm involved in, if we had Steve living with us all the time.
The Carlsons' experiences demonstrate how group homes can help the mentally retarded and their families live fuller, more productive lives. But these residence programs are often the exception rather than the rule.
We've only made a dent in it, there's no question. There are large areas of the state of Alabama where no facilities are available. We know that. And we can only hope that state and county governments will continue their support.
There's just not enough funding to take care. It's very expensive. Not nearly as expensive as institutions, but it's not cheap either. Human services is very people-oriented, very salary-oriented. It takes a lot of people to run programs. And funding is the major reason.
The group home concept isn't new. There are more recent innovative alternatives such as supervised apartments and condos. But in many situations, a group home is one solution that offers a more complete life to the mentally retarded. These people at his group home are a sort of new family for him, right?
Oh, they are, and we enjoy watching that. And they have their own ways of enjoying things together that we would never think about, you know, as being another generation.
The sheltered workshop is the traditional solution to providing work for mentally retarded adults. The routine tasks are simple and repetitive. Here, workers recycle paper from books or bundle kindling.
How many you got? 3.
How many at your table?
But Hope Haven in Tuscumbia, Alabama is not the traditional approach. It's a school that prepares its students to give up the security of the segregated, sheltered workshop for the challenges of the working world.
Most of the time, we start everyone out at the Adult Training Center here at Hope Haven. They go into our food service area, and from there they're taught the skills that they would need at the Right Track.
The Right Track was one of the first success stories for the Association of Retarded Citizens of the Shoals. This restaurant is popular because the food is good and the atmosphere is engaging. The building is an old railroad depot that the association rescued from demolition. What sets this restaurant apart is its workers. With a few exceptions, they're mentally retarded.
Hello, y'all doing all right today? Say all right. Say, what would y'all like to drink?
Sheila Murray learned about food service in classes at the sheltered workshop.
Okay.
Now she's got a real job working at the Right Track.
Regular decaf. I ask them what they like to drink, and if they want sweet tea and unsweet tea, I mark sweet. You know what? The one that's got sugar in it. Then unsweet means it don't have sugar in it. So you put the sweet tea in the plain glasses, and you put the unsweetened tea in the colored glasses. My favorite part. The wife is setting up tables and doing the beverage serving and help clean up in the afternoon.
These are people that have never been given a chance, and they're just so thrilled at having a job that they don't mind doing all these menial tasks that a non-handicapped person might not enjoy.
Ideally, the Right Track is simply another classroom where these workers learn their job. The idea is for them to go beyond this program and work in other restaurants.
Well, really and truly, you won't get any better workers than what we have here at the Right Track, because they are really trained well, and their jobs are picked for them before they go out.
Thanks to their experiences at the Right Track, many employees have gone on to work in area restaurants. But the Right Track is an opportunity to educate the public as well as the workers.
Usually a sheltered workshop is not very visible in the community. It's self-contained. They don't have a lot of interaction with the public, so the Right Track is totally different. In that the public comes there every day for lunch, so they're seeing firsthand what these people can do, what their abilities are.
The success of the Right Track encouraged the association to try other innovative work programs in the Shoals for the retarded, other programs beyond the sheltered workshop.
Happy birthday to you, and many more.
In other parts of the country, mentally retarded people are cleaning motel and hotel rooms. That was something that we had wanted to get into.
It was something Key West Inns wanted to get involved with, too. And now the entire housekeeping staff at its new Tuscumbia Motel is composed of mentally retarded workers.
We decided to set it up as an enclave. That way they would have a job coach with them all the time who is able to supervise them and make sure that they're doing the job the way the job needed to be done.
What are you going to do now, Jen?
Right here.
What are you going to do?
Go out that way.
Yep. Are you going to pick the mattress up?
No.
No. Good.
What we want to do is have each person able to clean the entire room. That way, after they learn how to do that, we can move them into another motel, move someone else in the enclave to begin their training. So it would just be a continual process in and out of the enclave.
We make sure that the rooms are spotless, 1A shape, that there's not a dirt, there's not nothing nowhere.
Their attitude is, it's a go-getter kind of attitude, and they want to please so badly, and they're so grateful to have this opportunity that they're just striving to please.
We have had people send us letters here to Hope Haven and say that they stayed in the room and how clean it was, that it was one of the cleanest places that they've ever stayed, and people who have said they'll stay with Key West just because we're there cleaning the rooms.
To me, with my experience as an executive housekeeper at a major hotel, their work here is better than non-handicapped workers.
It doesn't matter how they look. When we leave them, they're better than what they were when we seen them. And that's what we're here to do, and that's what we're here to show the community, that we can do it.
Some parents are aggressive like I am and said, keep knocking on the door and said, you're going to open and my child's going to come in, and if you can't accept him, you got the problem, not him. You get real tough skin about things. Other parents would continue maybe to make their child more and more of a recluse. I'm afraid my family's not like that. We've fought every step of the way. And I guess I really said it to you, Brent, when I said you determine who's got the problem. And we have no problem with accepting our son. Steve's a 32-year-old man, very friendly, loving, caring person. He has curly brown hair and blue eyes, and he has Downs. He has always been a very outgoing person, but about 2 years ago he went into a state of depression. And we've spent this time, Brent, trying to determine the cause for it. He did not even acknowledge your presence to begin with today. And this is difficult for us to accept because we want Steve to put his best foot forward. Steve all his life has been required to be responsible. He's been required to do his chores, his part of the home responsibilities. He's been expected to excel in everything that he does to his limits. He writes beautiful letters. He knows how to make people feel good about themselves. He knows how to graciously excuse himself when he's not wanted in a situation. He's a part of a church program. This is important to him.
Part of Steve's frustration, there's a lot of speculation with the therapy, but maybe part of it is limited opportunities he has in work and in living.
The work has been the same since he was 16. He had a very warm relationship with Althea, his girlfriend. I think Steve realized this is going nowhere. And I think this is frustrating to him. He realizes that he's probably going to live in the house with us the rest of his life. But he didn't like the alternative to that. He has not been able to see any different alternative. The therapist is trying to get him to see that he can be independent of us in a house of his own and not go into group living. She's beginning to talk about this. How far she's going to get, I don't know. I would like very much to know that my child could function without me. I think maybe it would hurt a little bit more to give him up, but we've always wanted Steve to be independent of us.
How likely do you think that is to happen?
I don't know. If you had asked me this 2 or 3 years ago, I would have said very likely. I don't know whether we're going to ever come out of this depression to the state of functioning that Steve had been before.
It's 6 in the morning at Baptist Montclair Hospital in Birmingham, and Steve Hatcher, a food service worker, is making the rounds. Now 33 years old, he was born with Down syndrome. He's mentally retarded. Steve Hatcher is a remarkably dependable worker and a remarkably independent man. It's not been easy for him or his family.
If I had known all the things that we would have had to have done over these last years, I probably would have had an ostrich syndrome and stuck my head in the sand and tried to forget about all of it.
Steve was born before today's special programs for retarded children and infants were established. He didn't begin schools until age 5, and his parents often had to fight to get him in what they thought would be the best classroom for him.
So we had never heard of infant stimulation. You didn't have anything like speech therapy or occupational therapy. Any of this type, things that help so much with children that are mentally retarded.
It was a challenge for the Hatchers to find the best classes for their son, and they pressed the schools to admit Steve into regular classes as much as possible. Then they discovered there were new challenges ahead when he completed school.
Sometimes I think parents are terribly overprotective, and we don't allow our folks to do things that they really can do because we're afraid that they might get hurt, or we're afraid that other people might make fun of them. But they have to have the dignity of risk is part of what they need to grow up with too.
Finding work has perhaps been the most manageable risk. He's able to compete on the job market because he's learned what employers expect of a worker.
He's always here when he's scheduled. The only time he's called in was, once, and he's been here for 6 years. He's called in once. He never reads the schedule wrong. He always does what anyone asks, no matter how hard or difficult it is. All you have to do is explain it to him. Sometimes it takes a little more explaining than it would normally, but once he's got it, he's never going to forget it.
Steve had a job, but he wanted more, and this risk would demand more of his family.
I asked him, would he like to move into an apartment? And he said yes.
Were you scared when you moved in here at first?
A little bit I was, and I got used to it.
But when he immediately said yes, it hurt my feelings, and it took me several days before I could get over the fact that he was really not wanting to live at home, that this was normal. My other son had moved out, had his own apartment, so why shouldn't Steve have the chance to do the same thing?
It took several years to find this apartment for Steve and pair him with a roommate who was also mentally retarded. There weren't any assistance programs the Hatchers could look to for help. In fact, Steve would still be at home if it weren't for the generosity of a family friend who made the house available to him. Steve and his roommate cook and clean for themselves, but they do need help with money matters.
I think that we really need a lot more of housing situations where maybe they have a little more support than Steve has. Maybe have 2 or 3 apartments with one person living there as a support person for these people. We've got a long way to go, and this is where we very badly need resources and need housing situations for adults.
Steve's also been able to assert his independence in a way only a handful of other mentally retarded people in Alabama have been able to.
Maybe those other folks didn't have a mother that was quite as crazy as I am that thought he can do this.
Steve's mother had attended an ARC workshop when he was a child and learned that some mentally retarded people, with patience and practice, could learn how to drive.
When I was at Berry High School way back in 1977, I started going to they have a driver's education program.
When I went to this workshop, this man talked about driving around in a parking lot. And that's what we did. We went up to Western Supermarket and we drove around and around in the big parking lot, and that's really where I taught him to drive, was in the supermarket parking lot.
Now, were you nervous when you went to take your driver's exam?
Oh yeah, some, a little bit, not too much.
How'd it go?
I did fine, I passed.
Did you pass the first time?
Yeah. And it gives him so much more independence. It gives me independence because I don't have to have the responsibility of getting him to work. So it really has been a tremendous help for both of us.
Steve Hatcher worked diligently so he could live on his own, work, and even drive a car. The hard part is finding the opportunities that will let him do everything he's capable of. And following Steve Hatcher and others like him is a new generation of mentally retarded children. They started school at an earlier age, so it's likely they'll be even better prepared to meet the challenges of their lifetime. And when they finish school, just like everyone else, they'll want the opportunity to live as independently as possible. They'll be ready.
Good morning, Keandre.
Children being born with mental retardation today are going to have a lot more opportunities than you did 20 years ago.
I don't think they need to be segregated at all.
They have the same wants and desires that we do. They want to have a job very often and a place to live that they're happy with. They want friends. They want to be able to go places and do things just like we do.
It may take some time before it's ever accepted. It may not ever be truly accepted, but it's still going to take some time. We just have to go into the community and try to educate the people.
He does wonderful, I think, but he still needs a little bit of a support system, and it's awfully scary for parents. But the more independent that he is, the more relieved I am.
If you have a question or a comment about this program, please write to Lifetime, University of Alabama TV, Box 870150, Tuscaloosa, Alabama 35487. Or you may call 1-800-239-5233.